Oh, I'm not sure why my name is coming up like that.
Yep. Hey, Dan, you're
Hey, everyone.
still listed as the New Paltz Democratic Committee. I don't know if you want to change your name. I can do that.
I'm not sure how that happened, but whatever. I no longer know how to use Zoom because it's been so long. I was excited. No more Zoom meetings.
What's up? What is up?
6:30. We have a quorum. We can get started. We can wait another minute for people. Chief, is Lieutenant Joseph Sciutto joining us?
Yeah, yes, sir. He's going to be calling in.
Okay, great. So why don't we get started? We'll start the recording. Okay, I'll admit Julie. And, some of the other board members, co-hosts as well. Help me out. And so I'd like to make a motion to open the September 23rd, 2021 New Paltz Town Board as Police Commission.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hey,
And please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
pledge allegiance
Allegiance to
to
the
the flag of the United States of America
and to the
to the
republic
republic for which
for
it
which it
stands,
stands, one
one
nation,
nation, under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with
with liberty
liberty and
justice
justice for
for
all.
all. Yeah, Dan, I am out of practice as well. I don't have my little flag to put up there. I apologize. Hopefully we're not doing this for too long. And so I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
Second.
Chief, did you have anything?
I
you'd
just
like
had
to
a
add?
question. Would it be possible to just change the agenda? Lieutenant Sciutto is on. Would it be possible to take up the
Yes, we can do his
that prior
number
to-
2 right away.
Thank you.
We don't want to make him wait. So we'll just move up the presentation to right after announcements, and then we'll do public input after that. Is everyone okay with that? Okay. All in favor of the agenda as written with that change?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Okay, and let's see. So we'll get into the announcements after this, but during the presentation, if people could mute themselves, I would appreciate it. And with that, Lieutenant Sciutto, I apologize if I'm saying that wrong. I would like to introduce you and hand it over to you, Rob.
So thank you very much. Just give a quick introduction. Lieutenant Sciutto is the Ulster County Emergency Services Response Team Commander. and he's held that position for a few years. I asked him to just come in to speak with the board, given the request to use the Seize Asset monies to purchase new patrol rifles for our ESU members. I thought it would be good, should the board have any questions as to the reason for this, that they have the opportunity to speak with him. And with that, I will leave it to you, Joe, if you'd like to just speak to the board, just in regards to the transition from the transition that ESU is undergoing with regards to the weapons.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Good evening, Dad. So as many of you may or may not know, the Ulster County Emergency Response Team is a regional team that's comprised of highly skilled and trained officers from multiple agencies in Ulster County that provide a rapid tactical response to critical incidents that would otherwise see the capabilities of routine patrols or investigative units. With that being said, I've been commanding the team roughly now for 3 years. Since I took over, I was upgrading all of our equipment and some of the technology capabilities of the team. With that was introduction of suppressors to our weapon systems. And there's some positives to the suppressors and only one negative. The positives of the suppressed weapon system, for first and foremost, is safety, and that is safety of the operators who are on the team. Like I said, we attend much more training, and as opposed to conventional training with other police units, we do spend a lot of time doing live fire training. And what this does is the reduced sound in the decibels help protect an officer's hearing, because tactical officers are exposed to more live fire training than your typical patrol officer. With that being said, we also practice tactics, which we are shooting in very, very close proximity to one another, where the muzzles of those weapon systems are a mere matter of inches from the heads of other operators. So with that, the suppressed systems help protect an officer's hearing. Second is what it does is it assists the shooter, and what it does is it reduces recoil in the weapon system. When you have reduced recoil, what it does is it aids the shooter in accuracy and becoming a more accurate shot. And then lastly, on a tactical perspective, what suppressors do is it help us to differentiate the sound of an adversary's gunfire versus friendly fire. And then I can tell you from experience that one gunfire does erupt at a scene. During an event, it's like what I would like to call a controlled chaos. And in the first critical or pivotal moments of that chaos, communication is key. And by us having the suppressed systems, we are able to clearly communicate to one another and get our bearings and address any threats that may or may not exist in those type of situations. The best scenario-based example I can give you, if you were to think of like an active shooter situation at a mall, or God forbid in a school, this would help us quickly differentiate adversary fire versus friendly fire, and then hone in on that to eliminate any threats. The only negative cost is like any other system, or adding equipment to any type of weapon platforms or systems, is cost. Again, it can range from a couple hundreds of dollars to thousands of dollars, depending on the type and the model suppressor you want to put on your weapon system. So for us, every agency that is on the team, leave it up to that individual agency on what type of system they want to put on for the individuals they have representing the team. Barring that, any questions? That's all I have.
I don't have any questions. What's the life span of these weapons?
The weapons itself. So, are you talking about the?
Well,
weapons?
I guess
So
the suppressor that we're adding on there.
So again, that is determined, like, we could be talking like think of like models of cars. If you buy a very high end car versus a very low end car, you may experience mechanical difficulties with something on the lower end versus something on the high end. The life expectancy of these should last you roughly around 10 years, given the amount of rounds that are going to go through. I think different ratings, different companies have different ratings for how many rounds are put through. Some of them say, hey, it's good up to 150,000 rounds. Some say only 100,000 rounds. So that should, at minimum, get you through at least bare minimum 10 years. Some of these you might get up to 20 years shelf life on them.
Oh, yeah, 10 is much longer than I thought. I expected it to be much, much less. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? If not, I appreciate your coming and explaining that to us. And with that, I'd like to make a motion to refer to the town board the purchasing of the this item using seized assets.
Second.
Supervisor, if I could,
Okay.
just in
Sorry,
case
Rob.
there's any other discussion. So our plan with this, just to answer some of the questions about that, is we would take about $2,300 up to $2,300, use up to asking for approval to use up to $2,300 from our seized asset account. We anticipate the cost to be much less because once we receive the new weapon, then we will be trading in the current ESU rifles as for credit on that. So one of the reasons we're asking for this and looking to make this whole purchase is that our current patrol rifles are Colts. And Lieutenant Sudo, just correct me if I say anything wrong, but they're Colt Patrol AR-15 rifles. And in speaking with the dealers, we were advised that it's better to purchase new rifles with a shorter barrel length in order to equip them with the suppressor system, rather than take and cut and modify the existing rifles that we had. They were concerned that there could be some potential malfunctioning by doing so. So this is really to purchase an entirely new patrol rifle for the assigned member for ESU. And as I said, then we would trade in their current weapons as for credit.
Chief, you're 100% correct. I would, not advise of trying to make a modification of any cutting to any of your existing rifles, but to rather trade those in and get a credit for the purchase of a new rifle. If we go cutting rifles, I can tell you we early several years ago, we tried doing that with one of the rifles that we had on the narcotics team. And all we did was experience many malfunctions from that rifle, and it then became obsolete, and the weapon was not functioning properly because we tried to cut ends by thinking that we were going to save some money by cutting it down, when in reality we should have just did what you were intending to do, is trade that in and just purchase a new weapon system that is outfitted with this suppressor system.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. So we'll go back now, the announcements. So this is a Zoom meeting, obviously. We're live streaming. I would ask people to please mute yourself when you're not speaking. And we're also going to be asking people to turn their cameras off when they are not speaking. And so it's just the town board and the participants in the meeting. And that way, if someone is making a public comment, they're more prominent on there. And also it's for the board that's interacting. And so it just makes the whole viewing experience a little bit easier for everyone. And so with that, I would like to see if anyone has any public comment for the police commission meeting. If you do, if you could raise your hand and we will call on you in order. Try to keep it to 3 minutes. And if Edgar?
Can I be heard?
Yes.
Thank you.
Are you? Yep.
So I'm very troubled in general in the direction that our town board is going in, even with this request to turn our cameras off. I like to see people and hear people, and I will speak to this a little later. But the more important comment that I want to make is that I continue to be very troubled by the presentation that I heard tonight in light of everything else that's going on with decisions that have been made with the town board. I feel, as a person of color, like I'm living in a police state with the decisions that the town board is making. The whole discussion about the rifle tonight, the whole idea that there's a budget item of $10,000 for bullets, the fact that the town board voted on new police cars, the fact that the town board has a new police department, that the town has will now have a new court. These are all decisions that are being made by this town board that makes me feel like I live in a police state in a town that has low crime. I do not view all those decisions as being justified. I am even more troubled because I don't see the town board talking about other issues that are relevant to people day to day. I don't see discussions going on about giving resources. All the resources I hear are going to the police department. Resources, for example, for Phoenix's program of the community wellness program is so important to the people on a day-to-day basis that deals with problems of overdoses, of suicides, of psychological problems, of issues of housing in our town. And I am very troubled in the general direction that our town board and where they put the energies in, what they vote, and where the money goes. That's my comment for now. I will have another comment at the next input.
Great, thank you. Is there anyone else? Maggie?
I don't like to reiterate what my husband says. In this instance, I just really have to say that when I saw that on the agenda there was $2,000 for a rifle, and it surprised me because I didn't think that we used equipment nearly as much as a $2,000 investment would make. I'm not a professional. The police chief is a professional, so is Joseph Sciutto. However, I do know that much as I am concerned about this little $2,000, I'm equally concerned, as Edgar said, about the way we are moving towards spending more and more money on police and less resources going towards the community kinds of welfare wellness programs. I'd like to see, we get a monthly report from the police department. We don't get a monthly report from other departments talking about these kinds of services that we need in this town and are using in this town. I know that the offices for community wellness are doing some very good work. I really think that, boy, what $2,000 would do for them, what $2,000 would do for the youth program. I remember going to a meeting, hearing that, well, you know, we have to cut a budget if everybody has to do a 15%, for example, budget. Well, maybe Jim Tinker has to pay his people less. So, you know, it just doesn't represent what the true needs are of our community. And I just would have to reiterate, as I've said before, our police department could do much more, and with more coordination from the county office of the sheriff and with the local Highland State Police. We pay taxes to the state police. We pay taxes to the county sheriff's office. And we have a really robust, really many police officers in this community. So I really just have to reiterate that we are just spending much more than we should be spending, given the kind of crimes and the low crime levels that there are. And if there are higher crime levels now, crime goes with communities that don't have what they need. And we continually don't address that at our level. I wish the town would be pushing more for, you know, what can be done to help with housing. the affordable housing crisis. You know, we could be spending money on hiring a grant person to look at what we could do about getting more Section 8 housing. We could be doing much more, I think. And I just think that it's important that we try to focus more energies on what are low income and even middle income people. Middle income people anymore don't even belong, can barely make it in this town. So
If you could wrap it up, please. 3 minutes.
I just really wanted to say that it continually is disappointing to see the amount of energy and the amount of resources that are going to policing. We have reform, and reform has turned into, let's see how much we can give to police. And that's not just in New Paltz. That's really throughout the country, actually, which is very disappointing too. And reforms will look our reforms will look back and say, oh, okay, so we did reform and we got the same problem 5 years down the road. We're just waiting for somebody to get hurt and somebody to overstep their bounds.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have any comments? If not, we will move on to the monthly report, Chief. And if I could ask people to turn their cameras off.
So just before the monthly, I just had a couple quick announcements. There's a virtual Narcan training that we're going to be putting on with the New Paltz Opioid Prevention and Response Team tomorrow. It's a virtual training. Anyone that's interested can go to the Opioid Prevention and Response Team's website and register for that. It's at 1 p.m. tomorrow. And if anyone's unable to attend but is interested in the training, there are videos on there that you can view at your leisure, training videos, and then complete a Request My Narcan kit. And we will either drop off kits or mail kits to anyone that completes the certification. We unfortunately had to cancel our Citizens Police Academy. We did not garner the interest that we had hoped. So we have canceled it. We are going to look to try and put it back on in the spring, and I'll keep the board advised of that. And we did hold our conversations with the police at the Water Street Market last week. Unfortunately, no one attended. So we're going to be looking to schedule I'll be putting out an announcement about our October one probably next week. I did speak with Jen Berry, had a good idea, and we're going to try to create some sandwich board signs so that when we go out, people know it's not just the cop and or the cops and some people sitting there talking, and maybe they'll know it's an intended program. So we're going to do that, and hopefully that sparks a little bit more interest. So those are as far as announcements. In terms of the monthly report, just quick on the cover sheet that. I apologize, it was incorrect. It's for as far as the defensive action reports, there are 4 reports in this month. There are reports from 4 incidences in this packet. And just a quick update on our member who was injured back on August. They returned to duty, and they will be back for their first 4 tonight. So we're happy that to have them back and in the fold. So in going through the report, just in terms of the detective cases, well, let me just backtrack real quick. The only other thing I do want to say is that I just want to thank the board for being as supportive as they have in terms of helping, patient with us in terms of the move. And I just want to say I'm really proud of the officers here. The move was a lot more than I thought it was going to be from one location to the other, and we're up running, and just the patience that they've had, and just the willingness to help and get this place settled and get us up operationally has been great. So
I do, Chief, I meant to mention that we probably should tell everyone that the police station has moved if they did not know that. Yes. So we have moved the police station from 43 South Putt to 59 North Putt. So if you go by the old station, there's no more sign. I've asked Google to update their map, and we've updated the town website, but just trying to get the word out there. It still looks a little like a construction site because the new sign is coming, but people can walk right in if they need the police. We're up and running. Sorry to interrupt.
Yep. No, I appreciate it. Thank you. We're fully functioning, so it's been great. In terms of the detective, looking at the detective's report, the one highlighted case is obviously the apprehension of the suspects involved in the armed robbery from July. And we'll look at this a little bit more when we review the defensive action reports. But the suspects, all three suspects involved in that armed robbery were located. The matter is before pending at the DA's office. It's been reviewed with them, and the case will be presented to a grand jury in October. Great job by everyone involved in this, not the detectives, but the officers as well. So that was the one case I wanted to highlight. In terms of commendations, we have one commendation for Officer Phil Kraus. We received this letter from a resident here. Wanted to thank him. This particular resident had left a valuable item at a local business and had been trying to make contact with them to retrieve those items, and then contacted the PD. Officer Kraus made several attempts on their behalf and was able to eventually get the item, secure the item for them. And just wanted to thank thank Officer Kraus for his willingness to help out and just for his actions. So there were no complaints against personnel for this month. I don't know if there's any questions about the letter or the complaints. Okay. So we did have, as I said, 4 incidents, and we generated for uses of force. The first incident stems from a use of force incident that occurred on August 4th. It's one use of force. The individual involved in this is a 23-year-old male, 6 feet tall, 190 pounds, medium build, black, Hispanic. They were charged with reckless endangerment of property, 2 counts of resisting arrest and disorderly conduct. This is an individual who was taken into custody and brought back here to the police department. While at the station, he was combative with the officers. At one point, they had escorted him. He had asked to use the restroom. He was brought up there. At that point, he physically resisted the officers as they were trying to have him back down to the processing area. He then pushed one of the officers and swung at posturing up at one of the officers. There was some pushing, at which point one of the body cameras was knocked off. The sergeant was in there with the officer. They ended up physically directing this individual down to the ground, handcuffing them, and then bringing them back down to the processing area. So we reviewed the video on this, spoke with the officers, and based upon the investigation, the actions of the members involved, 2 members involved, were within department policy and consistent with training for that situation like that. So there were 2 reports, and that's why the same individual is named in both reports, because both officers used physical direction. So the next use of force is documenting the stopping of the suspects involved in the armed robbery. So there are actually 11 reports with this, but I'd like to explain that because it's a little misleading. The reason there are 11 reports is 2 officers submitted 1 defensive action report. The vehicle was occupied by 5 individuals. So the officers had their firearms out, and as a result, a defensive action report is filed for every occupant of the vehicle. In addition to that, 1 other officer submitted 1 defensive action report because their weapon was out at the time as they were directing the individuals from this vehicle. This was a vehicle that was stopped on Main Street. It was a felony stop conducted by members of our agency, the state police and the sheriff's department. Yeah, 2 of the 3 suspects involved in the armed robbery were taken into custody, and an illegal loaded handgun was recovered at the scene of the vehicle and traffic stop. So the first individual that I'll go through, there were 5, and so I'll explain, who they were. The first is a 20-year-old male, about 6 feet tall, 190 pounds, medium or large build, black, non-Hispanic. This individual was charged at the time of the stop with false impersonation, and is one of the suspects involved in the armed robbery. There are 3 reports naming that individual, as you'll see in your packet. 2 from everyone, from 2 of the officers, and then, as I said, there's the one from one other officer related to that individual. There's the second person that was involved in the vehicle and traffic stop is a 29-year-old male, approximately 5 feet 6 inches tall, 195 pounds, medium build, black, non-Hispanic. That individual was charged with robbery first, criminal possession of a weapon second, criminal possession of a weapon third, 2 counts. Another occupant in the vehicle was a 21-year-old female, approximately 4 feet 11 inches tall, 145 pounds, medium build, white, non-Hispanic. There were no charges filed on that against that individual. They were not involved in the robbery, and once at the vehicle and traffic stop, once the officers concluded their investigation there, that person was released. The next person involved in that was a 30-year-old male, approximately 5 feet 7 inches tall, 170 pounds, medium build, black, non-Hispanic, and this was the operator of the vehicle. They were charged with a vehicle and traffic offense, and then again released. And the 5th person in that vehicle was just an occupant. There were no charges filed, and it was a 23-year-old male, approximately 6 feet 2 inches tall, 185 pounds, medium build, black, non-Hispanic. So in this particular case, as I said, the vehicle was observed downtown. A felony stop was conducted up near Joe Allen Road, and all of the individuals were removed out of the vehicle. The use of force by all of the officers was within department policy and training. However, there were a couple of, in reviewing it, there were a couple of training issues that we identified and that we are handling administratively. So, for example, one of the officers who was involved was actually operating the microphone, directing the individuals out of the vehicle with their firearm, providing lethal cover. Similar to what I think we talked about at one of the previous meetings about operating 2 weapon systems at the same time. It's the same philosophy here. We wouldn't want you operating that microphone and a weapon system at the same time because there is a possibility of a sympathetic reflex, and that is an issue. We also talked about providing adequate, less lethal cover. And in this situation, there were multiple officers, and we would have liked to have seen some sort of less lethal cover out there as well. And then finally, when we reviewed the video, just an issue with clearing the motor vehicle, the approach by the officers. So again, these are things that we addressed individually with the members that were involved, but what we're also going to be talking about at our upcoming firearms training. I don't know if anybody has any questions about that. I know there was a lot I packed in.
Can you just give an example, Chief, of the less lethal cover you would have liked to have seen and what was happening there?
A taser, a shotgun. If there was a canine equipped unit, something like that as well. The idea that you'd have an option before having to resort to lethal force. So we would want that and that option there. So, and again, just when we review these things, when we review our use of forces, we subscribe to the principle of good, better, best. And we always are striving for best. And so we look at these with a critical eye. Obviously, this, from a tactical standpoint, I think the officers did very well. Very impressed with their demeanor, very calm and methodical in their approach and how they communicated with one another, communicated with members from other agencies. But we also, as I say, we're going to look at this from a critical eye and say, okay, well, what else do we need to be doing? And so those were the three things that we identified in all this. But overall, I think that the officers did a very good job in this situation. Okay. Bear with me. So the next use of force involves a 26-year-old male, 5 feet 11 inches tall, 170 pounds, medium build, white. This was a disorderly conduct that ended into a resisting arrest. The officer attempted to place the individual under arrest. The individual refused to comply with the verbal directives. He began flailing his arms, and the officer used an arm bar to guide the subject down to the ground, where he continued to resist. Ultimately, they were able, with the assistance of a sheriff's deputy, they were able to place the individual's hands behind their back and take him into custody without further incident. Again, in reviewing this, the use of force, there were no, it was inconsistent with policy and training. We did again identify a training issue in terms of how or how the officer in this particular case brought the individual back to a standing position, and so that was addressed administratively with that member. And then the last use of force involved an MHL call, a mental health call. It's a 30-year-old male, approximately 5 feet 11 inches tall, 190 pounds, white, medium build. This individual was taken into custody on involuntary transport, and the officers were responding to a call for service. Ultimately, the subject was trying to evade the officers, and they used physical direction to take him down to the ground. Two officers were. Another officer came and assisted with handcuffing that individual, and then the patient or the subject was turned over to the rescue squad. There are no criminal charges pending in this case. It was simply a mental health call. And the individual was turned over to the rescue squad for transport to the hospital. I want to make sure I gave the specifics. Apologize. This is I don't know if I said it already. It was a 38-year-old white male, 5'11", 190 pounds. The takedown itself and the use of force in this particular case was consistent with our training, but again, identifying issues. One of the issues that we identified, two issues. The individual was transported with handcuffs, just for the safety of the crew, but was cuffed in the rear position. So we discussed that with the members that were involved, and that in that particular case, they should be cuffed with hands in front or to the gurney to avoid any type of injury to them. And just we would have liked to have seen our members have transitioned this individual to a seated position sooner than what they did. We talk about positional asphyxia. So we, in reviewing this, we would have liked to seen a quicker transition of the individual involved in that. And that's all I have for the defensive action reports. Okay, unless anybody has any questions.
Yeah,
Okay.
I do, Chief.
Yeah.
So I just for my sake and the sake of the public, when you say the actions were within department policy and there are training issues, can you explain that in this last case specifically? So the person ideally should have been handcuffed to the gurney, but instead were handcuffed behind their back. So are you saying our policy just calls for them being handcuffed and they can be handcuffed any way they want? So that's why it's within policy, but it's not preferable. Can you distinguish, like, how do we say that it's within department policy and then say, but there are training issues? I'm trying to understand.
So the use of force, the actual physical use of force is what we're talking about. So in terms of, using physical direction to take the individual down to the ground and taking them into custody, given the situation that they encountered, it complies with our training, our policy. When we talk about the training issue related to the handcuffing and or the positioning, it is something, I guess you could say, is out of policy per se, but it's not something we want. We look at it as a training issue. And as I said, some of this is, you're looking at these videos and then saying, well, you know what, that was too long. We want it to be a quicker transition. And when we talk about guiding somebody from transitioning them from the ground to a standing position, how we do that. When I say that when I'm talking about within policy, I'm talking about the actual use of force in that particular case.
I see. So,
and then we deal with those other issues on an administrative level.
And, when officers are, not using best practices, which is what I'll call, if you will, training issues, what you're calling training issues, like these aren't our best practices. And what is the record? What is your policy as it regards, yes, I see the same officer on specific, this is not what we do. This is not what we do. How do you work with that when it's like, oh, is it the same officers doing this in general, or is it, no, it varies and it's okay before it becomes, when does it become to your attention and it's like, wow, you got to know these things. You got to know how we do these things to protect the public.
We look at the individual report, who it is, what the circumstances are, and then if we're seeing a pattern, then then it's a matter of entering that into our progressive training file and handling that with remedial training. It could be a variety of ways that we're going to handle that. When I say we're handling that administratively, it could be if it's the same individual making the same mistakes, then those are different than two different, and then we have to look at it in sense of, are we doing an adequate enough job in our training? Do we need to be conducting more in-service trainings so that the message is clear, so they're hearing it more frequently? It's through, we apply that same philosophy when we compile our end of year use of force report. What is it that we've seen? What is it that we need to be looking at in upcoming trainings? We take these and we look at them, and they help shape our curriculum for reality-based training, for our mental health training, for our firearms and defensive tactics trainings. They don't just sit in the vacuum and like, I don't just report. We do look at these for that reason.
Thank you for that.
Sorry, muted myself.
Okay.
So if maybe we can move on to item number 3, review the recommendations of the New Paltz Reform and Reinvention Commission.
So the first recommendation tonight from the Reform and Reinvention Committee was that the police department, as well as the community at large, town and village board, school board, emergency services, public services, public works, library, all businesses in the community should accept a shared glossary of terminology around systemic racism. And the committee cited the racial equity tools glossary, or the glossary in the racial equity tools website. So I've been looking at the terms. For us here at the department, what we're going to try and do is see how we use those terms in our policies, to, how do we incorporate them in our policies, our practices, and trainings. So, I've gone to the site. I've printed out the glossary itself. So for us, what I'm trying to do is look at our policies and just see ways in which, we can incorporate that, how the other entities outside of the police department's control, incorporate those. So we're all, speaking a common language, that I don't know, but, I totally understand, what the committee is, intends this to be. So, I mean, I know, Essie's here as one of the committee members. I don't know if Essie has anything that she would like to add related to that particular recommendation, if I'm missing anything. Didn't mean to put you on the spot, Essie.
No, it's no problem. That's what I'm on for. I'm sorry that I'm not on camera at this moment, but yes, Rob, I think it's great that you're going through that and making sure that's in procedures. I think that it's also important for your officers to understand that terminology and hopefully incorporate it into training and give them a copy as well. And as you said, we're hoping that the school board, the town board, and public offices will all get on board and use that terminology.
Yeah, so I've been thinking about this, and I'm trying to think of an effective way to kind of convince other people to do it. And I think, leading by example is one way. And I think if we just sent this around to people, it would just be filed away and they would never do anything. But I think if we try to work on it first, and then we send around, hey, here are the changes we've made to our policies. Here are the ways that we've incorporated it, to show them that we're actually trying to do it. It might be more effective, but maybe not, right? But I think so we can work on this for a little while as the police commission and the police department and the town board, and try to find ways where we can incorporate this new language. And then we send it out to the school board and the village board, and we say, hey, we're doing this. What about you? That's just a thought.
I agree with.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
No, you
Rob.
go,
I was
Essie.
just going to say,
No, you go.
I agree with that as a tactic. I would also like to see it posted, on your site. That would be a good place to have it too for reference.
I'll create a link on that on our site, so we have it. And the only thing I would say is, I would encourage the public, look at it. And if a lot of our policies are online. If there are things that people see, give a call, or stop by the conversations with the police. And we certainly, I've said it before and I'll say it again. When I look at these things, I look at it through my prism. And so, I would certainly, encourage anybody to go look at the terms in the glossary. And if there are ways that that people feel we can do a better job, let me know.
Great. And then so number 4, are you all done with number 3, Chief?
Yep.
So number 4 is, go ahead, sorry.
No, sorry. So the next one was the review about moving towards a public safety model and away from a law enforcement operations model. And the committee gave a couple links to certain tools that we could use in this. It's a new era of public safety. I'm trying to make my way through it. The one is 453 pages. The other is about 153 pages. But what I will say though is I think that we are a guardian police department. I definitely think we need to improve. And there are ways. I'm not saying we're perfect. But I think our non-enforcement collaborations are evidence the fact that we are not a warrior mentality or a warrior police department. we prioritize our non-enforcement or, endeavors. And so I certainly think we have, room to grow. And that's, I've been reading this to find ways and ideas that we can use to try and, bridge those gaps. And so, that's why I appreciate what these tools bring, because they're ideas. And I also appreciate the fact that I still have contact with the committee. And it allows me, to them, for them to be a sounding board, and for me. But yeah, that's really what I had to add about that. I don't know if I see you have anything else you wanted to add about that.
Yes, this is something that's ever evolving and trying to figure out how to make sure that the police department is, I want to use the word like more community oriented. And I think not just seeing them in these just arresting people or only coming around when there's a problem or something. So even other groups and people who are having events and things should try to invite the police and bring them so that they can be a face that's seen as not just being problematic or not just being called when there's a problem, not just the policing, but actually being part of the community. And I think also, Rob, like them being friendly and stuff, like, I don't know if that's part of training or whatnot, but like I see them at, I don't know, the fair and some things, and I try to smile. I have to like go out of my way to get smiles and waves. And I mean, that's just a tiny little thing that's not exactly community policing, but I just feel like that's a way to start and change the face of it from policing to more of a community aspect. And like I said, I think that people should also give their ideas of how to help Rob and the department change this face.
Essie, I just appreciate those comments. I think, if there's something about being the first one to smile or the first one to initiate a conversation, that changes, sometimes that changes the tempo or the feeling of what's happening in an interaction. And the police uniform and the holstered gun and other equipment can be intimidating to a citizen. And so whenever the police can make that first, reach out of how are you today or whatever, that goes a long way, I think, toward warming up, warming up the environment for those interactions. So that would be my suggestion: is take the first step whenever you can, because you're in the power position. There's even walking into Jack's or walking wherever, it's like the police officer is in the power position, and just because, and anytime you can kind of calm that power dynamic that is not intentional, it goes a long way, in my opinion.
Yeah, so I might have to step away for a minute, but Chief, I kind of read through some of this today. One of them, they talk about how their report grew out of Ferguson and the President Obama's task force on 21st century policing. And I know that our department played a part in that, or at least attended some of the training sessions. So, I mean, I agree with you that I think that we've been doing some of this here in New Paltz, the community policing, for a while. And, this one report goes through like 12 different things that we can do. And if you read through it, I think we're already doing some of those. I think we do a good bit of the walking up and down Main Street and trying to engage shop owners and residents. And I appreciate the fact that you think we can improve it. I've been on boards and other, not town boards, but public public volunteer things, and the police in those towns weren't as interested in walking. They really wanted to be in their cars. And yes, sometimes I think there's a need for that because you have to cover a larger area. And I think if we have the person power to do it, I really like the fact that we can have police on bikes and foot patrol in town. So, and I think that's a big part of community policing. So thanks for pushing that.
Rob, I was wondering, could you, Esty brought up the idea that perhaps it's in our training, or she mentioned maybe it could be in the training to, initiate smile. I mean, initiate a friendly interaction. Is that something that already is part of what you do?
I mean,
whether it's official training or simply just, saying it to officers.
I mean, there's no official training. It's, what we are doing is trying to encourage our people to be more engaging with their community. I think some of that boils down to, who it is and I think it's different for everyone, their comfort level, all of that. And so, I think, what we need to keep doing is encouraging it. What we also, and I'm gonna get a little philosophical, but when you talk about this warrior guardian thing, some of this stems from before you even come to this department. When you talk about the training you're receiving in the academy, there's danger behind every door you're going around. And I'm not saying that this isn't a dangerous job or there aren't dangers in this job, but when that is, becomes ingrained from the get-go, then it's a matter of trying to change that. And so I do think there needs to be, one of the things I would have liked to have seen with this reform and reinvention process is more change on the state level, more change in how we train our officers and what the curriculum is in the, from the Department of Criminal Justice Services, and so, each academy has their latitudes within the academy, but I do think that adds to that. I mean, there are, like I said, there are dangers, but we have to put those into perspective, and so I think sometimes that's a part of it. I just also think sometimes people are nervous. I mean, you may be a cop, and I don't disagree with what you said, David, about the power and the authority, but the person walking may not feel comfortable themselves, so that's where I think we need to, continuously stress that message. I think that's the only way, not a specific training, Julie, to answer your question in a really, really roundabout way, but I think we just need to keep pushing that forward.
And just, go ahead.
It's literally a two-way street, so that they probably sometimes feel it's more appropriate for them, to just take a more serious attitude or whatever. I do think that you have, some very good officers who are just, doing what they think is appropriate. And, so I understand.
Yeah, I think sometimes we have some officers who are comfortable or, and in that human interaction. And part of it, I also think, though, is generational. I mean, this is, you see this in the, if you're used to just the cell phone all the time, and then, but as I said, I think, I don't necessarily think it's one training, but I think we need to keep reinforcing that message: engagement, and seize upon, like Esty said, seize upon any opportunity we have to meet with the public.
Yep.
I certainly like the idea of it. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Julie.
I like the idea of reminding people who are holding events to invite the police for a not because they think there'll be trouble. But David, I don't want to interrupt anything you wanted to say, but I'm just thinking about, this is the issue of community policing versus the other. What are some other things, after David has his comment, what are some other things we should be talking about? I'm just, wondering, besides the friendly interactions kind of thing. So go ahead, David.
No, I think that's a great question, Julie. I guess I just want to say also, Chief, the Citizens Police Academy that you're offering and the monthly things, that is in the engagement that we're offering to say, hey, just come and sit with us. We're regular people just like you. We're citizens of the community just like you. And this just happens to be our job. So I just want to also credit that we're going to a lot of efforts to do that. And I really appreciate that as well.
No, I appreciate it. I mean, we're going to keep swinging, that's, and at some point, we may miss a little bit here and there, but we may strike gold as well. So, we're going to keep moving along.
I just have one last thought on this issue, and that is I want to agree with David and say I am very appreciative, Rob, that you always make room for improvement. And so it's nice to see. And but going to the thought of sometimes they're not comfortable and so on, that just made me think of our need for the ideal officer, right? Like, you have to set the culture for your police department. And so I think it's important that even when they're not comfortable, that you help them with that. Like, this is a part of who we want to be. Like, I understand that might not be the way you were trained in your training, but this is how we do things here, and reminding them how you want them to interact with our community here, as opposed to us just getting used to this officer who's not comfortable with the public. So I just want us to keep that in mind. We want the ideal officer for our community. We need to be building our officers.
Yep. And I agree with you. And that's why I say it's constant messaging. It's having the ability to select and retain, recruit, retain, those individuals that when we have those opportunities.
Yes. Great.
Thank you. That's good discussion.
Essie, is there anything else that you think that, I know we have a meeting, the public hearing starting now, but just brief, we could even, something to think about if we want to discuss it again. Is there anything else you think we're missing on in this topic?
I can't think of anything right off the top of my head.
Really appreciate you chiming in, Essie.
Thank you.
So do I. I love that you're here. I really do.
Thank you.
I don't have anything else unless there are any other questions related to anything.
I'm back. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate your report. I think we're Neil. I think we're all set unless anyone has any comments.
Yes, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the New Paltz Town Board as Police Commission.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. To make a motion to open the public hearing for a local law to repeal Chapter 34 of the Police Commission Board of Code for the Code of the Code of the Town of New Paltz and add a new Chapter 34 Police Commissioners Board of.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And so with that, I would like to open up the public hearing. And if people could turn their cameras on when they're speaking, or if they don't want to turn the cameras on, they don't have to, but you're more than welcome to, and raise your hand and we will call on you in order. Can't imagine people don't have comments. So please raise your Zoom hand because I may not see you raising your physical hand.
I'm sorry, I can't find my Zoom hand offhand.
Okay, go ahead, please.
It's under reactions, right? On the
Yes.
menu on the bottom.
Oh, I see. I'm
The
sorry.
far right. It's okay. They could make it easier.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Everybody knows I'm Tom Jelliff, and I'm speaking today as a member of UACT and the New Paltz Coalition for Community Safety and Wellbeing. I want to talk about three aspects of the proposed police oversight law. First, disbanding the police oversight body should require due process and a full explanation, contrary to what has happened twice in recent New Paltz history. In February 2019, the board removed all members of the Police Advisory Committee without public hearing or much of any ado. Despite a nearly year-long process of selecting the committee's membership, it was dissolved after handling only one case, and it was the complaint of police brutality against a young Black man. In the winter of 2014, the board held a public hearing on the repeal of Chapter 34, history repeating itself. Public statements were overwhelmingly opposed. In its meeting immediately following the public hearing, the board decided simply to keep the law and act as the police commission itself. The minutes record no discussion recognizing the service of the citizen members of the commission or officially dismissing them. The Police Reform and Reinvention Committee and our coalition's reports both called for strong measures to prevent such abrupt and summary dissolutions. Earlier this summer, Deputy Supervisor Daniel Torres also cited the need for such a change. However, the proposed law does nothing to address this concern that is so vital to the independence of the commission members. We would recommend at the very least to use language such as exists in the state's law for town planning boards. I quote, "The town board shall have the power to remove after public hearing emphasis, any member of the planning board for cause." There's nothing like that in the Chapter 34 proposal that I could find. The second issue I have is the official Reform and Reinvention report recommended that at least 2 members of the commission be people of color. Our report recommended that any oversight body have a majority composed of individuals of color, others who are affected by police activities, or have performed anti-racist community work. If such requirements can't actually be embedded in law, the board must make a statement that it will select members whose qualifications are in keeping with the anti-racism goals of the reform and reinvention process. A major criticism of police oversight bodies throughout their history has been that they have no teeth in disciplinary matters. The proposed law does leave unchanged the commission's access to all records of the NPD. Technology. But the law does not indicate that the commission can conduct its own investigations, only that it, quote, "shall monitor the disposition of complaints and/or accusations." Further, while the existing version of the law says the town board cannot supersede an order or directive of the commission on questions of promotions or disciplinary proceedings, with certain exceptions, the proposed law reverses course completely in saying the authority to undertake the commencement and/or the continued prosecution of any disciplinary proceeding is reserved to the town board. If you are proposing this change to conform with some legal requirement, the board needs to find some other way to save the commission from total irrelevance in just such key disciplinary matters. For example, by specifically authorizing the commission to publicize its findings and recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And any other comments?
Did you send that, Tom, in an email?
Yeah, I'll attach it to the minutes, right? I'll also send it to all the board members.
Edgar?
Okay. How long will the hearing be kept open for this matter, for the Board of Police Commissioners? I did not, and many other people did not receive the normal notice that you put out on Tuesday for meetings. And I had to track through your website yesterday the information. So some of us have not had sufficient time to prepare.
Well, we did notice this in the paper, and we did at 2 weeks ago, or at our last meeting, we did say this, we're setting the date for this public hearing.
That might be true, but the normal way that I get communications is through an email that comes out on Tuesday morning.
We're not closing the public hearing tonight, if that's what you're worried about.
Do you know how long it may take? How many hearings you might have?
And we'll see how many public comments we have, but my idea was to at least keep it open till the next meeting.
Okay, and what are the qualifications to become a police commissioner? I didn't see it at a quick reading of the document. I didn't see that. Will there be a section that describes the qualifications, duties, etc. of the police commissioners?
I'm pretty sure that's in there, but they have to live in New Paltz as one of the minimum qualifications.
Okay.
I don't think there are many more than that.
They have to be an adult, likely they have to be an adult deal.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be,
I don't even think you have to be 18, actually.
For example, if you have a criminal record, can you be a police commissioner?
It's not stated in the law that you can't be.
Okay. And what will the process be to select police commissioners?
We talked about this a few months ago, but we were going to work with Jen Barry, who was going to collect resumes from people. And then she was going to, from there on after, make recommendations to the town board as well. We have received very few interest or applications from the public thus far to serve in this capacity.
Right, but there may be more if a statement is put out in the newspapers, etc., describing the qualifications, duties, how long it lasts, what the process is like. That might, I encourage that you do that. You may get more applicants. I did hear that a few months ago, but it went by the wayside when that comment was made that SC would hope to, with the recruitment process. I think there should be a formal process in place as written, that's part of the policy. That describes how a police commissioner can be taken off, for example. There may be a reference to that.
All that's in the law.
Well, that part I think it is. But what I am suggesting is that there be some kind of a statement put out describing the qualifications, duties, and the process that will be used to select those police commissioners.
That's all that's in the law. But
I will read it again more carefully.
Go ahead, Maggie.
I think that one of the very positive things about the report that came from the steering committee was the idea that this body be composed of people of color, at least 2 people of color. I understand there may be some concerns about stating that publicly, but I think most importantly, I have to emphasize that the composition of this body really should be people who are mostly affected, mostly in the majority be affected by the police. And this is what the purpose of the EO 203 was originally designed to do, something that relates to and addresses those needs of the people who are most affected by police. This board as composed does not do that unless you really indicate that in writing in this document. It might be that, Jen Berry may do a very, very good job based on her personal qualifications or her personal preferences of what would be good in terms of an application. But, Jen Berry is not going to be around forever, just like you're not going to be around forever, nor I am going to be around forever. I think it really is incumbent upon the board to set a policy, to set the specifics of what is going to be a selection process for this, and to focus on what the qualifications are, and really describe and understand, have the public work at understanding why they want this kind of composition versus that kind of composition. You do not create policy based on who can do this now. You do it to have it work for you and work for everybody when you're there or not there. So I just really end up having to emphasize the importance of identifying what you think is a preferred composition of this board, and also what the selection process is. It should not be a person that you have decided they happen to be interested in this at this point. There should be qualifications written in that selection process. And I frankly don't think it should be one person. And I don't, even if it was me, okay? The point really is that really, you want to have policy that goes beyond any individual and any individual board. Next year, you may be here, you may not be, different board, they say, well, that's not what we're as interested in. And we may tell Jen Berry, or we may tell Essie Lewis, or we may tell Edgar Rodriguez, let's change this a little. So I really think that I take that role much more seriously, because that is something that the Police Reform Commission did talk about very specifically. And I encourage you to follow their lead and extend that. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask about Neil very briefly. I would assume, it would be Jen, if we continue with the process that we described, the Jen would be recommending, and then it would be 5 people who are elected deciding, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Appointed.
Appointing. Yeah. I mean, the first step is people need to apply.
Yeah.
Right. And so people need to apply so we can appoint them, or Jen can talk to them. I'm not trying to be critical, but, people have been saying for years, we have to do this. And yet no one has stepped forward.
It could be because we're still working on what the job
Could be.
is.
Could be. One person has stepped forward, but, if it's so important that we make this change, we can't, prove to me that people really want to do this. This is a lot of work, right? There's going to be training that's required, and monthly meetings. And so I can get it. That's why people may not want to step forward. And so I agree, we can do a better job of maybe summarizing what the responsibilities are that are laid out in the law. And we can probably write something up of, what the expectations are of them, number of monthly meetings, number of hours, because sometimes it might be a little scary for people to, maybe it's too much for me. I think I think that's a good suggestion. We could be clearer in what people can expect when they volunteer for this.
Yeah, and I just wanted to kind of address some of the comments made during the hearing. I actually do agree that I think having an additional process I think I suggested it, like having for planning board members to remove someone makes sense in this scenario. Just to explain the Jen Berry idea, that was to provide just an additional outside validator to look at that. I don't see that as a long-term solution to how we pick them. I do anticipate that moving forward, the town board will make these selections, because that's a good democratic way to do it. People elect us to the town board to make those decisions. If they do not like how we make those decisions, they should not vote for us or consider running for that office to then make those decisions as well. I think that's just an important part of the job. And people do have the ability to weigh in via electing all of us to then make those choices. So I think it's good to have this as a one-off, but I think going forward, it actually does make sense for it to continue to be the town board. And I do just want to, I don't want to go point for point, but I think it's important to kind of re-go over the history of this, because it was told not in the most accurate way. I'm not saying that was intentionally done. I just think it's important to clarify. It is correct that a previous board disbanded the police commission. No one who currently serves on the board was a part of that board. The next board that was done was an attempt to rectify that, while there were still a number of members on the board who did make that initial decision. So that was the compromise proposal that was made. They did hear a number of items. It was not just one item, and they were dismissed, and we did describe this and have numerous conversations on this, including when we then tried to reconstitute the group, was because the way we did it in trying to provide more authority to citizens violated the law. That's actually since been rectified by the state. But that's why they were removed, was because our town attorney told us that we had made a mistake when we tried to give citizens more power in this process than they did. When we then made the additional compromise on this, we did the same process we're doing now, and we received no applications, or maybe 1 or 2. And the only time that I ever remember serving on the town board where the entire town board wrote a letter to the paper was about this topic, trying to solicit volunteers, and we did not receive any. So I'm very happy with us moving forward with this law. I think we should definitely keep the public hearing open at least one more meeting. And I do think it would be great to provide some additional protections on how we remove members. But I think this is the right step going forward, and I'm happy we're doing it this way.
I see Stana's hand, Neil.
ahead.
And so
Go ahead,
I believe
Stana.
we're still in the public hearing.
Stana, go ahead. please.
Hi, I thought perhaps in the effort to find more volunteers for the commission, that a call could be put out on Facebook as well, because a lot of people seem to get their information there. And just, think outside the box about other places we could post. I've been announcing it at every village board meeting. I just want to try to, get the word out to as many people as possible.
Pretty sure that we put this out, Kathy's put this out on the town's Facebook page.
I think we're all open to more opportunities to get people engaged in this process. So certainly welcome to any ideas. And I'll certainly kind of think about how we can best reach out. The one other point I actually do want to make as well, I am a little uncomfortable with creating certain quotas for a board like this, and specifically doing it based on people identifying as individuals of color. I myself am Puerto Rican. I have a number of, even among my own family, who would describe themselves as people of color based on both their personal life experience and the pigmentation of their skin, and other family members in the same part of my family who would not do that for those exact same reasons. So I obviously think that we should, be committed to having a diverse board. But I feel very uncomfortable putting that in writing anywhere or making that a stipulation of how people end up serving in that capacity.
I don't even know if we can.
Yeah, I think we can make a public statement of our goal to do so, but again, we have to have people who are willing to serve, but certainly our goal to make sure people of color are more than included. I would say at least 2 of the 5. That said, I think it's preferable to have citizens rather than town board members. So, right now we're talking about what happens if we don't have enough citizens to serve, that we're going to have to fill in with town board members, and that's not really desirable. So just really want to call out to the public to, now you have the law, you can see what the responsibilities are, you can see what the qualifications are. You need to be a citizen of New Paltz. That's really the qualification. So please come and serve the community if you're interested in doing this.
Have we put it on HV1 and any of the local papers?
I'm
I think we have.
I can't believe, well, we have every week we have volunteers needed, and I'm positive that there have been articles written about this. And the writer for the HV1 is in this meeting, so
Yeah.
it might be covered again.
Right. I mean, I think it would be nice if it was covered, maybe an article saying, hey, there's a large part of the community that has wanted this to happen and has been pushing for this to happen. And I think it's a great thing to happen, but not enough people have come forward to volunteer for the position. And we really need to come together as a community and find people for these positions. I mean, maybe an article in that vein might inspire people to know that you actually have to put your money where your mouth is and come and serve in the community. So
You might be quoted.
I might be quoted. That's okay. That was the whole point.
Is there money involved?
Maybe just no, put your heart in your service to the community. How's that? That's probably a little bit better.
Unfortunately, you do not qualify for a Metro North ticket anymore.
Neil, I about this idea of a sort of a job description, it's a little different than the law, perhaps, and maybe people would appreciate. So, you said that, and I'm just offering to help draft something that would be like responsibilities.
Yeah, sure. And commitment. I think people are interested in what's the time commitment. like
Yeah, so
we have to read through all of this before we come to the meetings, that takes some time. You have to kind of prepare. You then have to go to the meetings. Sometimes you have to follow up. If there's, an incident, then you may have to like go and look at body cam footage and things like that. So, I mean, I think people are reluctant to step forward because we're all overcommitted, and they may think, oh, I don't have the time for that. But if then you describe exactly what it is, like, oh, maybe I can do that. Right. And so I think it's helpful.
Thanks, Julie, for that offer. I really appreciate that. I think summarizing the responsibilities would be great.
Yeah, it's just a little different from having to read a law. I remember, a year or two ago, I really combed through the law, our current law that described the police commission's duties vis-a-vis the town board as well, because I was, just curious about how it all teased out. And I think, obviously it would just be a draft, but I'm happy to whether it's coordinating with Neil or talking with Rob, or, obviously passing it by the town board, I'm happy to do that. And then we'll make sure that this is widely, advertised, and maybe even the committee could help us. The Reformation Committee. Did I say that right? What's the name of that committee again? The wonderful
Reform and Reinvention
recommendations. Maybe they can help. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any comments right now? We can leave this open for the rest of this meeting, and then at the end we can see if anyone else comes onto the meeting that didn't have a chance. We can give them an opportunity to make a comment. But if no one has any other comments now, my motion is to leave the public hearing open and just move on to the
Second.
next part of the meeting, and we will hear more comments at our next meeting. I don't have the date in front of me, but October 7th, is it? On my calendar here.
I think that's right, Neil.
October 7th. So I make a motion to leave the public hearing open until October 7th at 7 p.m.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and so with that, I'd like to make a motion to open the New Paltz Town Board meeting for September 23rd, 2021.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty,
liberty and justice for all.
So I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
And I would like to add item 7. I sent this around earlier. This is the Safeco monitoring contract for the fire alarm at 59 North Putt. And that's it.
Second as amended.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Okay, and so once again, this is a Zoom meeting. Please mute yourself when you're not speaking. We welcome.
We're at announcements first, Neil.
Oh, announcements. I missed that. Announcements. That's my announcement. So if you turn off the camera, we're going to have people. We're asking people to turn their cameras off when they are not speaking during public comment. I know that may seem like a big change, but if you think about a regular town board meeting, it's no different than a regular town board meeting. When we film our town board meetings, it's the board that's being filmed. The goal of town board meetings is for people to see the town board's business and for us to get that out and be transparent. And that involves the town board members being on camera, not the public. We do not film the public when we used to film the town board meetings during the board meetings. Like, so this is not your chance to be on camera. If you want to be on camera, get your own YouTube channel, right? This is the town board. We're speaking to one another. It also makes it easier for us to interact if we're looking and we can see each other's faces. It changes the dynamic of the meeting when we have 100 faces and we can't see each other. But when people are speaking, we welcome you to put your camera on and make sure that your face is out there and that you have every opportunity to be seen by the public. But for the rest of the meeting, we're doing the town's business, and it's really just the town board. That's the rationale for doing that. Open meetings law does not require that everyone's face is on video. It doesn't even require town board members' faces to be on video now that they've modified it. People can call in. And so that's my comment for that. We don't like doing these Zoom meetings. Dan and David and I think Alex and Julie, we would much rather be in public in the community center or the new place where we're going to be having them at 59 North Putt. But if we have to do this video, then I think we're going to try to do it like this. And that's my comment for that. I don't know if anyone else has any other comments. The town offices are closed tomorrow for Records Management Day. So that's all I have. And then if you missed the appointment earlier, the announcement earlier, we have moved the police station. It's no longer on South Putt. It is on 59 North Putt. So that's my comment for that. And if, so the Office of Community Wellness in conjunction with the Ulster County Outreach Program will be holding a pop-up Narcan training tomorrow night from 7 to 10 p.m. in the village of New Paltz. And from 7 to 8:20 in front of the Elton Memorial Library, and from 8:30 to 10 o'clock in the post office lot at the picnic tables. The rabies clinic for dogs and cats will be held on Wednesday, October 13th from 4 to 6 p.m. at the Town Highway Garage. For more information, please visit the town website or contact the town clerk. And so with that, does anyone else have any other announcements? If not, I would like to open the floor for public input. Please asking people to keep their comments to 3 minutes. And if at 3 minutes, I'll ask you to kind of wrap it up. And if you could do that, I'd appreciate it. And with that, if you'd like to raise your Zoom hand, I cannot see everyone's physical hands. And so I apologize, but if you raise your Zoom hand, you also go to the top of the list on the participant list. So if you have a comment, please raise your hand and I will. Tom, if you could, you're welcome to start speaking. Tom, maybe you can't unmute, but Daniel, would you like to go?
Great. Yeah, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Daniel Schneeven. I live in the town of New Paltz. As you all remember, in October 2019, the town board voted unanimously to revamp zoning guidelines in what is now called the town's Gateway District. This followed many months of meticulous study and deliberation, including, by many of you. Nonetheless, in the months that followed, Trans Hudson Management Corporation sued the town, challenging the legality of the zoning changes. From the beginning, it was clear that this lawsuit lacked legal merit and was instead filed as an act of intimidation meant to pressure the town to expedite the approval of Trans Hudson's controversial proposal for the corner of Route 299 and North Putt Corners Road. In May 2021 of this year, the attorney representing the town, Rick Golden, prepared a motion in court to have this lawsuit dismissed. In this long and thorough document, Mr. Golden carefully addressed each of Trans Hudson's claims of illegal actions by the town board and town planning board, persuasively demonstrating the flawed legal grounds of each accusation. At one point, Mr. Golden writes, Trans Hudson's purported challenges to Local Law 7, which created the Gateway Zoning District, are not rooted in environmental issues as the lawsuit suggests, but rather in its own purely economic interest. Trans Hudson's sole concern proffered in this proceeding is the impact to its own financial bottom line. That was from Mr. Golden's motion. Within a month of the motion to dismiss being submitted, the town opted to defer the motion until October 31st. This date is now just a month away. I'm here tonight to urge the board to not further extend this deferral and instead allow a judge to read and evaluate Mr. Golden's motion. Given how much respect I know that all of you have for Mr. Golden's expertise, there's no reason to think that the lawsuit will not then be dismissed. The danger in agreeing to another deferral is that the lawsuit would continue to hang over the planning board like a sword of Damocles as they begin to review Trans Hudson's latest proposal. The job of the planning board is to achieve the best possible project for the town. Forcing the planning board to operate under the shadow of impending litigation, even when the litigation is baseless, will not allow them to do their jobs and conduct a thorough review. There are various impacts related to this project that the planning board still needs to evaluate, including impacts on public safety. Given that Trans Hudson site is located right at the primary entrance to New Paltz, it's crucial that the planning board feel unencumbered in requiring necessary revisions to mitigate negative impacts and public safety risks. Agreeing to another deferral would also send a dangerous message to others that the town can be bullied by those with deep pockets, even when it has done nothing wrong. The town has already paid Mr. Golden to craft this well-argued motion. I urge you now to allow a judge to read it and bring an end to this frivolous lawsuit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom?
Getting there. Okay, great. Okay, so I wanted to reaffirm our efforts at improving transparency of the New Paltz town government and to ask why the board seemingly has a hard time engaging with members of the public on a two-way basis, although this evening's public hearing was a notable exception. I won't belabor the discussion around your 3-minute rule for public input, now published as a policy on your website. I would just note that quite typically, you did not see fit to post it with the agenda for the meeting it was voted on. People had to find it at the meeting. You have said repeatedly that town board meetings are not occasions for back and forth with the public or for extended statements by citizens. You have invited direct contacts, such as emails addressed to the council members personally. We've tried that approach too. On June 14th, we wrote to the supervisor requesting what we called a Civics 101 course to give us a better grounding in the processes of governance in this town, how board agendas are set, how the public meetings law operates in the town context, what are appropriate and effective ways to communicate with board members, the relationships of the town board to other boards and committees, how to participate effectively in the budget process. We also suggested that this course could lead to a set of frequently asked questions itself to be posted on the town website. On July 5th, we wrote an email on various issues pertaining to police reform and reinvention, including enhanced transparency by posting a calendar for the discussion of the recommendations of the EO203 report, posting the police chief's monthly reports prior to police commission meetings, posting annotated draft regulations, posting budget documents in more accessible formats. There's a pattern there. And posting the documents the town board used to research options for a proposed independent civilian police oversight body. On August 31st, we wrote to ask the board to post the anti-racism statement prior to the board meeting. On September 15th, we wrote to recommend various changes to enhance the transparency of the budget process and the ability of citizens to have meaningful input. The recommendations included more accessible formats of currently published documents, again, a standalone document explaining the budget calendar, a budget overview giving revenue forecasts and identifying major line item changes and the need for them, a town organization chart, a listing of individuals on payroll, already public information, but not synced with the budget process, and a listing of the individual contractual expenses of each department, such as is already published annually by the police department, but not synced to the budget process. Not even one of these 4 sets of requests and recommendations has yet received a response. Even if these requests were outlandish, I don't think they are, I believe public officials are duty-bound to respond substantively. Perhaps there is a cost associated with posting documents. Perhaps there is a privacy concern we are not aware of. Perhaps there is a technological obstacle. But all those can be easily named in a brief email. Possibly you are simply too busy keeping the trains running. Even that can be said very quickly, along with a time frame for a more complete response, even a phone call. please let's hear from you. Thank you.
Maggie? Edgar, Maggie?
Yes, thank you. Of course, I support what Tom said. We were a part of that whole process of letter writing and trying to get some information. But I guess I don't need to say any more about that. He was clear in what he had to say. I mean, his points were very clear to me. I hope they were to you. I want to go back a little bit to what I said at the meeting for the qualifications and the composition of the commission. I know you'll be having a hearing again, and I think it's good to think about this before. I really clearly said that it should not be, we should not name that we prefer people of color. I think what we should do is say very simply that those who have been affected by the police or more likely to be involved with police interactions should be preferred, because these are the people who are affected, and these are the people who are more likely to have better input and understanding for you as board members and to represent the community that they are supposed to be representing. I like Dan Torres and Puerto Rican. People don't think that I am. So, and I don't think that matters. I think what matters is that I have lots of experience with policing. I've been subjected to and been part of police actions. And I really think that those are the people you want. The more successful you are will be based on the kind of input you get. And honestly, I knew that you had said a long time ago that people who want to apply should apply. Well, we didn't know how to apply. I didn't know how to get a hold of Jen Berry, and I didn't know that was going to be the process. So I think that
It's not the process.
Okay, well, I think that the process is not clear, and maybe that's what the problem was, at least for me. I'll speak for myself. Okay, I'm a teacher, and I know if a student raises their hand and they're not sure, it suggests that 10 other students are not sure. And I'm not going to tell you I represent 10 people, but I do know that it was not clear to me that the process that was described to send information to somebody was continued. I thought that would be posted somehow. So I would just say that we should not be disheartened that people have not applied. I think that we should just make it more clear what the qualifications are, what their roles are going to be, and what that selection process will be before people apply. I'm not interested in going for a job that I don't know enough about, and I think that that's, it's a very fundamental job for when you are seeking anybody, whether they're volunteers or paid. So those are my two comments. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Edgar?
Thank you. I have a typed statement, and it's different. The title of it is called A Tale of the Democratic Process in Two Municipalities, New Paltz Village Board versus the New Paltz Town Board. The ancient Greeks were the first to create a democracy. The word democracy comes from two Greek words that mean people for demos and rule for kratos. Modern democracy requires that besides voting, that the people participate in the process of government to share their knowledge and wisdom in the process of public input with elected officials, as they make policy that impacts all residents in our two municipalities. Public wisdom is critical to making good public policy. When you are elected, you do not come with the collective wisdom of the community. In New Paltz, I have witnessed two distinct and troubling approaches to providing public input to our two governments. In the village, I've observed a spirit of encouraging direct public participation at public meetings, where speaking limitations are flexible and people encouraged to speak their mind. Two-way discussions at the table take place between elected village officials and the public. People are invited to the meeting table and encouraged also to meet privately with elected officials. Most important, Questions asked in public are directly answered. Letters written to the village are often read aloud. In the village, every effort is made to encourage public participation. All my observations were present at several recent village meetings in their hearings on the good cause eviction proposed law. In contrast, the New Paltz Town Board, on an increasing basis and at every turn, discourage and limit public input, particularly in the last year. Town Board members continue to complain about public input and constantly come up with rules and statements that they are not required to even have public input. They have directly asked the public not to make public statements, but to make written comments, which often are not responded to in writing or in public. The Town Board does not have a supportive public spirit that encourages comments and questions that are usually responded with silence. The important public comments are not recognized nor encouraged. It will be interesting to compare the good process of the village hearing with the forthcoming town hearing on a similar proposed law on the good cause eviction within the coming weeks. I hope that a continued anti-democratic spirit in the Town Board will not continue to prevail for the
Wrap it up, please.
local democracy. We will continue to have a tale of two democracies in New Paltz. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
I just wanted to quickly say, I'm totally happy to talk to residents to go over a local government 101 or anything like that. After our last in-person meeting, we had a member of the public who had questions, so I spent about an hour on the phone. Sometimes you send an email to 5 of us. It's not always clear who should answer that, or even if there's a direct action from that. So my cell is 845-399-5092. Someone wants to set up a Zoom call, a phone call, I'm always happy to do that and have those conversations. I'm sure a lot of my colleagues are as well too. I don't think anyone is ignoring you. I think that we have a lot of things going on. We're also still dealing with COVID. We're moving a bunch of our buildings, and 4 of the 5 of us are also part-time town board members. That's how that process goes. But I'm happy to make myself available to people if they want to talk in other formats. I frankly find that to be far more productive than this format.
I mean, I'm happy to talk to people. You know, people call my office, we talk. I went down and sat at Water Street Market for an hour and a half the other day, meeting with some people about issues. So I don't know what to say, but you know, we're happy to talk, and I'm happy to listen to anyone else who has public comment as well. And we've always been 3 minutes. We have not changed that. We've had a 3-minute guide for as long as I can remember on the town board. So anyone else?
I just want to add too, absolutely, you know, I'm very, I do not think that any of us are trying to not hear from the public. I've told multiple people how much I appreciate, you know, when we meet in person, especially seeing people come to the meetings. That is exactly what this is about. And if you really think we're not into democracy, I mean, we want to hear from people. We do respond to people. I think this 3-minute thing, it has to be fair. That's the idea behind it, because we don't always have information to respond to everyone. And if, let's say we have multiple presenters waiting, you know, we have people that want to see the meeting, we're not going to have, it's not a good time to have a back and forth. So, you know, I think it's an interest in being fair and being democratic that we do have that 3-minute. Maybe we should, you know, I mean, I would be okay with 4 if it feels like 3 is, but that's just me. But, you know, I just think, you know, it really is incorrect.
I mean, I agree with Alex. If you can't really get your point across in 3 minutes, you need to think more. You need to focus a little bit more on what you have to say, right? Alex brought this up at another meeting. You know, I get it. People want to talk, but we need to, I think we listen. We don't go back and forth, I think, because there's a power differential, right? We can answer questions sometimes, but it's not conducive to, I think, good conversations to go back and forth with board members, either over Zoom or in a town board meeting. I think sitting down, having a cup of coffee at Water Street, I think it's going to be a lot more productive than us, trying to, prove that we're right on camera. I don't think we get anywhere doing that. So that's just my philosophy on it. But
I also think it's like just really important to note that this is a terrible format. That's no one's fault. Like, we're doing this because we're in a pandemic. Like, that has also exacerbated a lot of the issues in how we communicate with the public and how we have these conversations. I'm not going to go on and on, but I'll just again reiterate, if someone wants to have a longer dialogue, I'm happy to do that, whether that's teaching a government 101 course or going over some of the emails that were sent. I think that's a great thing to do. The reality is these Zoom late night formats, when we have a large agenda that require a number of conversations, I just don't think are going to really be that productive.
all right. Any other comments? If not, we will move on to item number 1. So motion to approve and authorize items 1A through 1J on the consent agenda.
Second.
All in
Just a
favor?
question.
Go ahead.
I see, Neil, I see just through item I. I don't see J on my agenda.
Maybe it is I.
That's I.
J is budget mods. I think they were added today.
Okay.
I think Kathy put it in there. It's a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 budget mods. That I think they're in there. Do you want me to take them out?
No, I see that. I see something I, authorization for the budget mods is item I on the agenda that I'm looking at. I don't know if I'm looking at an old agenda, but I just want to be clear for the minutes so that we don't have to have a special meeting to do something.
No, I think is what is it? Building department. It's what are these things? I is the escrow accounts for the New Paltz storage for the planning board. And then J is the budget mods.
Okay, great.
Thanks. So that does often happen. So items A through J. Second, or all in favor, or do you want me to?
Second, Alex?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, item number 2 is the short-term rental discussion. Just going to get an update. I think, we've been talking about it a little bit. People are asking like when they can see the law. I don't think we have it back from the attorney yet. We're still like kind of working on it. And just to kind of explain it to people, it's a rough draft. Think of it as a rough draft. Then we have the public hearing, right? And then we get feedback. And that's so don't, people are emailing me and asking me, can I see this? Can I see this? And there's nothing to see yet. But when we have it, we will put it up on the website. Everyone will be able to see it. Is that fair, David?
Yep. Yeah, I know. We had said that we would have it by this meeting, and we expected to have it by this meeting. But our attorney's backed up on a couple of different laws that he's working on for us right now. So hopefully, I'm hoping that we will have it by the October 7th meeting to release. The town board members would have to be able to see it for a couple of days before then. Nothing is going to be happening that fast on this. Neil, you had already said there won't be a public hearing on that law until we review it and present it at a meeting, and then we'll schedule a public hearing after that.
Yes.
So hang in there. Like Neil said, it's a draft, and we'll be looking for public comments on that, the public hearing on our draft.
And then, related to that, I think to help us have a discussion based on facts, the county will give us, the county has been collecting data on the number of short-term rentals in each town in Ulster County. And so they're willing to share that data with us. We have to sign an agreement, with certain rules for, us having that data, just an intermunicipal agreement. And so I'd like to make a motion to authorize the supervisor to sign the IMA with the county for information sharing.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Neil, did we want to discuss anything about how we would work with the community on some of the, this is going to be a law that is going to affect some folks, positively and negatively. This is not just a no-brainer. And did you want to talk about how we might seek community input in this, or do you want to hold that off until we get the law?
Either way. I'm not trying to railroad anything in here. I don't want anyone, I don't want you to think I'm trying to take things over. I passed that email along because I wanted, I don't have an agenda on anything. I just want people to know, if I get an email that the rest of the board should know about, I pass it along.
Yeah.
But the request was, if you want me to talk about it,
please.
This does affect people. It's I think on both on all levels, right? Which is one of the reasons laws like this are being passed by lots of different towns in Ulster County, right? We all know the world has changed over the last year and a half, and that there are more people staying in Airbnbs, and there are more people staying in rentals, maybe for the summer, and it affects the quality of life in certain neighborhoods, and it also affects the affordability of homes. Some people are also going into that area, and that's how they're making their living, where they're buying these homes and they're maybe trying to start a small business doing that. And so it affects people in many different ways. And so people, when we pass a law that doesn't really affect anyone in the short term, people don't really do anything. But I think when we do something like this, people get very nervous about it. And so some people are just asking that, before we pass this law, that we try to make sure that we get input from everyone that this is going to affect, and they've asked, could you form a committee, and, with that committee to get feedback from everyone. And I think, we're not going to have one public hearing and then close it and then vote on this law, right? That's not what we're doing here, right? We do want feedback, and when we get this, like I've said, the people who've emailed me, I've said I will send you this law, or send you the link to the town's website where it is, and you can read it, and I welcome all the feedback, and I'll tell you when the public hearing is. That's the goal is not to just pass a law and then have problems with it, or to try to pass a law and have people not like it. Not everyone likes everything, but we're trying to pass a law that solves the problems without creating other problems here. I think you're on mute, David.
Can I ask Neil, does it make sense to do some kind of town hall or something like that, where folks can come and there can be some back and forth about the challenges that we're facing as a community and affordable housing and things like that?
Yeah,
maybe after the law comes out, so that
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, instead of a committee that we would have to be that's going to slow down a lot. And I'd rather be in a situation where we're having a back and forth conversation about what we're facing as a town and how we can meet it within the law, and have our code enforcement officer there, maybe our lawyer there, so that we give people a chance to share their thoughts and have a little bit back and forth. So maybe we'll propose that once we have a law to show. Okay.
Yeah.
Does that feel good to people?
I like that idea a lot, David. Yeah. give people a voice so that they can
Yeah.
give us their thoughts and their ideas on
Exactly.
this. I think it's great. I'd love
Yeah.
to have that.
Yeah, great. Okay, so I'll bring that up once we have a law. Hopefully, we'll have something by October 7th. Thanks.
So the next one is, this is an amendment to the IGA between the town and village for Water District 5. So the original IGA was signed, I think, back in 2015 by Supervisor Zimmett and Jason West. And it's really to kind of set up, how how much water gets produced, how it gets, the agreement is for the town to provide water to the village during emergency shutdowns of the Catskill Aqueduct. And the amount that was listed in there was when there were going to be two different water sources. The one up on Parody's Lane and one down on Plains Road. The one up on Parody's Lane eventually did not work out, and they decided to not go forward with that. And so they're relying only on the water source for on Plains Road, and they want the amount that's referenced in the IMA to reflect the amount that water district is able to provide. And so this whole IMA is about changing the volume from, I think, 500 down to 400. And the DEP has asked us to just codify that with an amendment to the IMA. And that's what this amendment is for. Just so it's in writing and that, no one comes back and says, oh, well, originally you said 500, but now you're only doing 400. And they want us to say that we're only required to withdraw a max up to 400 gallons per minute for a fixed amount of time.
So are we approving the amendment or authorizing you, Neil, to sign the new IGA?
This is the amendment. This is the second amendment to the IGA. You're authorizing me to sign the second amendment to the IGA.
I second the motion.
Just wanted to let you know, Neil, that Julie's Wi-Fi went out because of the storm.
Yes. Okay.
Mine just went out. I just got back. Sorry about
Yeah.
that.
You just texted me.
It does look,
Yeah, pretty
I
bad.
see I don't see much light in front of me here. I'm surprised you have anything up there, David, because it looks pretty dark. So why don't, all in favor of that? Let's get this done before I lose power too.
Right.
Then I have to call in.
Aye.
Aye. Number 4 is authorization to use up to $2,300 from the seized asset account to purchase the new patrol rifle with suppressor and suppressor adapter for the ESU member, as well as approval to trade in the existing ESU patrol rifles as credit to go toward the purchase of the new weapon.
I'd like to second with a comment.
Yes.
Just that the seized asset fund, to Maggie's comment about why are we using this money, the seized asset account must be used for things of this kind. We're not allowed to repurpose that money for other things. There are very strict restrictions on what we can use seized asset accounts, our seized asset account to purchase. It must be for use in situations where it came from. Okay.
Yeah.
So
we
with that, I second
couldn't
that.
use that money for Phoenix, even if we wanted.
Yep. Yep. Second.
Good to
All in
know.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The next is Buildings and Grounds would like to authorize to hire municipal worker 2 at $25.14 per hour with a 50-cent an hour raise at 6 months and a 50-cent an hour raise after 1 year. So this is to replace a worker that is going out taking early retirement.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to approve the September warrant in the amount of $2,049,844.94.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And motion to authorize the supervisor to sign a contract with Safeco for the monitoring service for the fire alarms at 59 North Putt.
Second,
All in favor or discussion? I sent this around earlier today. At the very end, it's, we're canceling the old one and we're just moving it over to the new bill.
Right.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. And that's all I have. We beat the lightning storm here.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Night, everyone.
Have a
Good
nice
night.
evening.
Stay safe.
Yep, bye.
All right. Anything you want to ask me, Terrence?
Yeah, did you get a blackout?
Not yet, but when I look around, like there's no light in front of me. Maybe on your street there is some light, but it's pretty dark.
Yeah, we lost power a couple of times, but only for an instant.
Yeah, I'm out looking out my back window. I'm like, wow, there's no light back there.
Wow. Yeah, you're right. Across the street from me, those houses are dark.
Yeah. All right. Well,
I
will,
guess you and I are lucky. All right.
yeah.